So, when you think of a private investigator, what's the first thing that pops into your head? A shadowy figure in a trench coat, maybe? A high-speed car chase through downtown? Well, the reality, especially right here in South Africa, is a whole world away from what we see on the movies. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the real story of this highly skilled and highly regulated profession.
All right, so let's actually put those Hollywood stereotypes to the test, shall we? You're about to see just how different the day-to-day of a real South African PI is from everything you've seen on screen. It might just surprise you.
And this slide just lays it all out, plain and simple. On one side, you've got the movie PI, all about action, breaking the law, and bending the rules for some vague idea of justice. But the reality in South Africa, it's the complete opposite. We're talking about careful, methodical, evidence-based work that has to hold up in a court of law. And forget hacking phones. Everything, and I mean everything, has to be done within strict legal lines set by the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, or PSIRA. This isn't some Wild West job. It's a serious, professional, and regulated industry.
Okay, now that we've kind of set the scene, let's really dive in. It's time to separate the facts from all that Hollywood fiction.
This right here is so important to understand. Real PIs in South Africa have zero police powers. They can't make arrests, they can't impersonate officers, and they absolutely cannot illegally hack your devices or ping your phone without a court order. And why is that? Well, think about it. Any evidence they gather by breaking the law is totally useless. It gets thrown out of court. Not only that, but it could lead to serious legal trouble for both the investigator and, you guessed it, the client who hired them.
So here's the official by-the-book definition from South African law. It's really specific, isn't it? A PI is someone who, for a client, looks into another person's identity, their actions, their background, and they do it without that person's consent. This isn't some loose job description. It's a legally defined role with a very clear framework.
All right, so with that legal foundation set, let's take a look at what's actually in a real investigator's toolkit. The services a modern PI offers are incredibly diverse, and probably not what you'd expect.
You might be surprised to hear this, but a huge chunk of a PI's work is actually in the corporate world. They're not just chasing down petty criminals. They're the ones called in to tackle really complex issues like employee misconduct and serious financial crime inside a business. And just look at the scope here. We're talking about everything from investigating internal theft all the way up to uncovering massive, complex financial crimes like Ponzi schemes and money laundering. For any business, having a good, registered PI on call can be an absolutely crucial line of defense. And we're not just talking about dusty files and stakeouts anymore. Cyber and digital forensics is a massive part of the modern PI's world. But, and this is a big but, it's nothing like the instant, magical hacking you see in the movies. It is a highly technical, super meticulous process of preserving and analyzing digital evidence so that it can actually be used in court. These digital detectives are really on the cutting edge. They're the ones meticulously digging through mobile devices, following cryptocurrency trails, and analyzing data stored in the cloud. This is incredibly specialized work that goes way beyond what your average IT guy can do.
You know, it's not always about catching a criminal in the act. A lot of a PI's work is actually in civil cases, disputes between people or companies. In these situations, their job is to be an impartial fact finder, gathering information for things like contract disputes or personal injury claims. Honestly, the list of services just goes on and on. PIs are out there investigating suspicious insurance claims and tracking down intellectual property theft. Yes, they also conduct discreet surveillance for domestic cases, and they perform those essential background checks before a company hires someone. A modern PI has to be a specialist in a whole lot of different fields.
Okay, but here's where we need to get really serious for a moment. If you're ever in a position where you need to hire an investigator, there's a huge risk you absolutely have to understand: the danger of unregistered rogue operators out there.
Just look at these numbers. They're kind of shocking, right? 62% of households and nearly half of all businesses have no idea that PIs are required by law to be registered with PSIRA. This is a massive gap in public awareness, and it's exactly what allows these unregistered operators to thrive.
And get this, here's a number that might really blow you away. There are only 546 legally registered private investigators in all of South Africa. That's it. It's a small, highly specialized industry, which makes it even more critical to do your homework and make sure you're hiring a legitimate professional.
So, what's the big deal? What actually happens if you hire an unregistered PI?
Well, the consequences are severe. First, any evidence they find for you can be thrown right out of court, which could completely destroy your case. But here's the real kicker. It is a criminal offense for you, the client, to hire them in the first place. The risk is just not worth it, period.
But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Despite these challenges with rogue operators, the good news is the private investigation industry is actively professionalizing and evolving to meet the demands of our modern world.
And we're seeing this change happen in 3 really important ways. First, new and improved training standards are making sure that PIs are properly qualified for the job. Second, technology like AI is making investigations way more efficient and effective. And third, the regulatory body, PSIRA, is modernizing its own systems to provide much better oversight of the whole industry.
And look, don't just take my word for it. This is a direct quote from PSIRA's own strategic plan. Their stated goal is to professionalize the industry through better training. That's a clear signal that they are committed to raising standards across the board. So after looking at all of this, the myths, the reality, the risks, the future, it all comes down to one simple, powerful idea: verification. When you're seeking the truth, making sure you're working with a legitimate, registered professional is the single most important step you can possibly take. So, if you ever find yourself needing these kinds of specialized services, there is one simple question you absolutely must ask before you do anything else. Is your investigator registered with PSIRA? That's it. That's the question. Asking that one simple thing protects your case, it protects you from breaking the law, and it ensures you're hiring a true professional who operates by the book. It's the difference between finding the truth and creating a whole new world of problems for yourself.